Hi again then guys, and welcome to another instalment of Beards and Cars, the review series for... Nope, it's not a review series. Sometimes you get too used to saying that. I'd usually cut that out, but you know what? I'm going to leave it in. I'm going to leave it in that time. This is a series which is more informal than the rest on the channel. And basically we talk about anything and everything, pretty much. Could be cars, games, movies, YouTube even, life in general. And I ask you guys, of course, to, if you'd like to hear something discussed, drop it down in the comments. And there were two questions in particular from last week, which were interesting. One was a pretty simple one. Do I watch anime? Generally speaking, no. I have some interest in some of it, although I'm certainly not an anime fan, because I just haven't seen enough anime to be able to be considered an anime fan. I like the art style, I love the craft put into it. I'm a big animated film fan, not just drawn, but also stop motion. I love stop motion, claymation, movies like The Adventures of Mark Twain here on YouTube, which you can watch the full movie of. I love that kind of stuff. And I love the style of anime. I like drawing stuff like manga. I'm not sure what the difference is. Probably just the form, I guess. Is one a comic book and one a movie or whatever, I don't know. But no, not generally speaking, I don't watch it. As you can tell, I don't even know the definition of, or the difference in the definition, so no, I'm not a huge anime fan. The other question was something which I used to do some videos on every so often. I did, I think, 3 mainly, and one of those was a Beards and Cars installment as well. And that is new games that I've picked up recently. I used to do great big long videos, like 40 minutes long, of all the movies, and, well, not movies actually, predominantly games that I've picked up, say, over the previous couple of weeks. Because generally speaking, I go to game shops and movie shops every week, usually every Saturday morning, to check out some new stock that they might have in. And I generally buy anywhere from a dozen to, well, however many each time. And I have picked up some new ones recently. I tend to look mostly for movies. I don't buy as many games, but I do certainly have a decent collection, you could say, of games now. Some of you guys have commented on my game selection when you can see it in the background of the videos. I've got by far mostly PS2 games. I'm still a big fan of playing the PS2. There are some great titles on that game. And I've picked up some PS2 ones recently. I'm just looking at the ones that I've got here next to me. I picked up one called R Racing. I'm just going to pick it up. Oh yeah, R Racing. It's got like a McLaren F1 on the front with a girl in a racing suit standing next to it. Because of course you can't sell a racing game without a girl on the front. Okay. The other one is Lotus Challenge. I remember seeing that in the shop back in the day, so I picked that one up. I like those kind of speciality games when they just go for one company and have a ton of cars from that manufacturer. I still haven't played that one yet, though. Another one that I picked up is, or actually a couple that I've picked up for the PS4, a couple of more horror-based ones. Dying Light I picked up, which is a zombie game. I haven't played that yet. And also Prey, which of course is much more recent. A lot of YouTubers are still playing that. I haven't played any of that yet. And I also picked up Dead Island for the PS3, which I've also never played, but I'm a huge fan of zombie games. I love Dead Rising. I've got all of the Dead Rising games now, finally. I managed to find the first one. Still haven't played the first or the second one, although I own both. Obviously, I love the third one. I even used it as the background for one of the installments of this series. I'm a huge fan of Dead Rising 3. It was my introduction to the series, and it's one of my favourite games. I've played through that game, I don't even know how many times. Probably a couple dozen times. Literally. I love that game. Dead Rising 4, I completed it, but I'm not as much of a fan of that game. I don't really like the protagonist that you play as, the guy from the first game. I can't remember his name, but I'm not really a fan of him. He seems a bit too arrogant. I'm not into that. I like the guy in the third game because he's kind of unassuming, and when you, spoiler alert, kill people who aren't zombies in the game, he feels guilty about that. And I think that's cool. It's an interesting character trait. I know some people don't like him. Nick, I think his name is, because he seems too nice. I mean, you could say that, but at the same time, I've got like 140,000 zombie kills on that game. So, he ain't that nice. He has no trouble mowing them down. And it also raises interesting moral dilemmas as well, if you want to think about it. Because on a slight side tangent, I love it when games do that. When you can have a game that goes beyond just playing a game and actually presents you, if you put thought in, with moral issues or deep mental issues, like the Batman Arkham games. The Arkham series is still my favourite franchise of any game, even more than Gran Turismo and Forza, because as great as those two are, there are no moral dilemmas or profound things in those games. They're just about cars, and that's cool, and I love that. But with Batman, over the 4 games, and yes, I am including Arkham Origins in that, because it's a very good game, and a very underappreciated one, but the story that spans through those 4 games is incredible, and I love it. I don't think you can make anything better about that series, in fact. It's a fantastic series, a great story, and Arkham Knight in particular had such an awesome ending. But again, it's the kind of ending which you could easily overlook and think, well, why do you think that's so good? Well, that's the point, you have to think about it. I like games like that. But of the games which I've bought recently, by far my favourite, and I didn't really expect it to be, but by far my favourite, has been Fallout 4. I bought my first Fallout game only a couple of months ago. I'm not a Fallout fan, or I wasn't at least. I started playing on Fallout 3 on, I think, the PS3, I think my version's on, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I went outside, started exploring the map, killed a few people, got a few things, and I just got bored of it. So my hopes weren't that high for Fallout 4. And when I started the game, I thought, this seems pretty familiar. It's a lot like Fallout 3 at the start. Something happens in the vault, you end up outside, spoiler alert. It seems very familiar. And I guess the first and second games probably do that as well. But I absolutely love it. I'm hooked on Fallout 4. I've been playing it pretty much every day for multiple hours. I thoroughly enjoy that game, and it's one of those games in a similar way to Arkham Knight, that the way that the game is laid out with the menus and that kind of stuff, when you first play it, it seems very daunting. You've got so many menus to work through, you use every button on the controller all the time. It's a very tactical game. Decisions you make have relevance down the line, relationships that you have, enemies that you make, stuff that you can pick up but you can only carry so much, forging weapons, helping people, not helping people, trusting people. It's a very in-depth game. But that's one of the best things about a game like that, because once you get used to the way it works, get used to the mechanics of the game, a game that's more complex is always the most rewarding, because you end up getting so much out of that game once you become fluid with it, and that's the point that I'm at now with Fallout 4. I don't think I'm anywhere near completing it yet, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. I've got some great weapons. I recently upgraded from the dog companion to a super mutant, so that was pretty cool. Can't be any worse than the dog, constantly getting in the way. And anyone who's played Fallout knows what I mean there. The dog is always getting in your way. And I love it. I absolutely love Fallout 4. And although I'm not a fan of Fallout in general, still, that game in particular, in a similar way to Dead Rising 3, I don't love the others, but I adore that one. Fallout 4, I would definitely put in my top 10 favourite games now. I love it. It's fantastic. So yeah, that's probably the most notable game that I've picked up. I also picked up another one on the PS2 that I can see here called Automodelista. And funnily enough, I'd seen it on Google the other day when I was looking up obscure racing games. And this one came up. And I'd never heard of it before, and it has a very interesting art style. If you type it in on Google, it actually kind of reminds me of Road Trip Adventure. Not in terms of the proportions of the cars, they're not penny racers, but it also has a similar look actually to Tokyo Extreme Racer. That has a very similar appearance. The cars are kind of anime in the way they look to some degree. The colours pop more, and every car has kind of a more clear definition to it, almost like they've been cartoonized, which is interesting. It's the way to go if you're not going to try and compete with somebody like Gran Turismo or Forza. Then just do your own thing. That's kind of like what they seem to have done. Again, I haven't played it, but the car selection looks interesting. It looks like predominantly Japanese cars. Again, very Tokyo Extreme Racer in its style and in its look. So yeah, there are plenty of games that I've bought which I still haven't played. Picked up Ridge Racer 6 the other day. I haven't played that one yet. And apart from that, I guess I just pick up games that just stand out to me. Sometimes I just pick them up to collect them. Like, I like picking up obscure racing games, and even ones which I know I'm never going to play. I just like to own them for the sake of the collection. Today I picked up a couple. I picked up another couple of copies of Gran Turismo 5 for the 10k giveaway, and I picked up another copy of Forza 2 to give away, and a couple of other games as well. And I love picking up PS1 games as well. The other day I picked up a copy on the PS1 of the first Doom game. That is awesome. I've heard so much about that, started playing it. I haven't spent as much time on it as I have on Fallout, but it certainly seems a lot of fun. And I love the simplicity of those older games with the more basic graphics, first-person view, with just pick up a weapon and shoot stuff. I like that kind of game. But I don't like all of those. I like specific ones, and Doom definitely seems like the kind of game that I could get into. I saw the newer Doom game today. Is it Doom 4? It's either 4 or 5, I'm not sure. I thought about picking it up, but then I thought, well, I've got so many other games to play, plus it was on the Xbox One and it cost a bit more. Generally speaking, I don't buy PS4 and Xbox One games as much because the price really adds up fast when you're buying those games. Whereas most of the games that I buy, they tend to be like 50p or £1 each, which is like $1, $2 basically. So collecting them isn't difficult. It doesn't cost all that much, especially not over the course of however long I've been buying them. And likewise with the movies, most of the ones that I pick up are like 50p each, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's basically what I've picked up recently. Fallout 4 is, as I said, by far my favourite. But something else which I wanted to touch on, and this will most likely be the title of this video, is some upcoming changes in the schedule on the channel, the daily schedule specifically. Now, this is something which I've kind of touched on before. I've spoken a lot in other Beards and Cars episodes about the differences that October and the months after would mean for the channel. But that has slightly changed, not because I'm planning to do more or less of anything in particular, but because of Gran Turismo Sport. I was planning, as many of you guys know, to continue doing Forza Horizon 3 and Gran Turismo 6 in particular, with also Gran Turismo 2 thrown in there, but focus more predominantly on Forza 6, first of all, which we've already started now, and Gran Turismo Sport halfway through the month. But now that we had this whole thing about the Phase 2 of the beta, that's kind of put me off a little bit pre-ordering it. Not because I don't plan to get it, but because I don't want to pay out like £110 here in the UK if I don't know that the game is coming out. I don't want to have to refund that later. So it's put me in kind of a quandary as to whether or not I want to actually do that. Now I think, again, I'm going to have to look into it more, but I think I might pre-order it still, because I haven't heard anything about changing the date. So being this close to release date, it's what, like 17, 18 days away from release as of today, something like that. So I would have thought if they were going to change it, they'd have announced it by now. So, I don't know. I guess they're not changing the date, but it's being unsure about it that kind of put me off the pre-order for a minute. So we'll have to see how that goes. But either way, I wasn't planning to do any Gran Turismo Sport videos until halfway through the month anyway, so that hasn't really changed anything there. But what I am thinking about changing is something which I unintentionally kind of field tested over the past couple of weeks, because sometimes I'll do things on the channel to see what your guys' reaction is. Not like trolling or something like that, although you guys know I do occasionally like to put out troll videos, but I mean in terms of the videos that I release. Of course, I upped production on the Horizon 3 tunes. I was going to 3 a day. That has been quite challenging to keep going, because for those who don't know, I don't just work on this channel on YouTube. I have 2 channels and a part-time job. So time isn't exactly something I've got a huge amount of. I never have lie-ins. I don't think I've had a lie-in for probably almost 2 years. So I don't do that. I get up, I don't burn daylight, and I'm pretty much doing something related to a YouTube video or work apart from YouTube all day, every day, pretty much. And although I don't dislike that, if I'm going to be putting that kind of time and effort in, it's got to be worth doing. And of course, that goes for any channel. And this, again, comes back to this whole thing of people who still keep saying, well, not the same people, but different people here or there saying, oh, this channel's dying. It's you're only getting a couple of hundred views when you've got almost 10,000 subscribers, so this channel must be dying. I can understand why you'd say that, but the difference between my channel and other channels, and I think I might have touched on this before, but I don't know if I've specifically mentioned this point before, that yes, my view ratio doesn't seem that impressive, but you have to bear in mind that if you compare me to other channels who do similar stuff to me, then those channels tend to focus on either Forza or Gran Turismo, and whichever one of those they specialise in, they tend to only focus on one or two games from that entire franchise. So Gran Turismo gamers on YouTube will tend to focus on Gran Turismo 5 and 6, or 6 and GT Sport. Whereas Forza players tend to focus on Forza 6 and Horizon 3, or now Forza 7 and Horizon 3, or Forza 6 and Forza 7. They tend to be very, very dialed in to one specific audience. That's not what I do, and it's not what I've ever really done. And even when I was only doing stuff for one game, GT6, the plan was always, and I made this clear back then even, the plan has always been to branch out and be, in effect, one of the only, if not the only, channels who simultaneously caters strongly to both of the biggest racing game audiences, both Gran Turismo and Forza. And although, of course, I'm still predominantly known for Gran Turismo, because that's 90% of the people on this channel, and about 90% of the content as well, Forza is definitely building. One of my most popular videos is a Forza video. It's got like, I don't even know how many views it's got. I think it's got around 60 or 70,000, something like that, and it's a Forza Horizon 3 video. So it shows that that audience is there. So that's an ever-building thing. And of course, most of my tunes on Horizon don't seem to get a huge amount of views, but when you hit a certain car or a certain tune, it jumps. Some of my Horizon tunes have 10 to 20,000 views. Others have 10 to 20 views. So that's just the way it works. And it was like that for Gran Turismo 6 as well. That doesn't bother me. Because as I've said before, this channel is not about entertainment. You don't come and watch my videos to have a laugh. You might, but that's incidental. That's not the purpose. This channel is an archive. I'm a virtual mechanic providing you with resources for different major racing games, be it tuning, reviews, comparisons, that kind of thing. So by definition, my videos don't have a sell-by date. They're always relevant if you go back and play an older game. And that's always what I've tried to do. And the benefit of that is that my channel has a raindrop effect, and I think I have spoken about this before, that people generally who don't have any subscribers and don't really know how it works, they assume that if you have 10,000 subscribers, you should be getting 10,000 views on every video. It just doesn't work like that, especially on a channel like this, because my channel isn't one group of people. I've got people who came here just for Gran Turismo Sport. I've got people who came here just for Gran Turismo 6. I've got just Forza Horizon 3, and now we're moving into people who are only coming here, or maybe came here for the first time, because of Forza 7. So that alone is 4 distinct groups of people. And if you've come here just for Gran Turismo Sport, you're hardly going to watch my Forza content, are you? Or you're not even going to necessarily watch my Gran Turismo 6 stuff. So it's not that I have one audience. That's just not how it works. It's like I have 5 or 6 individual audiences that all come to me for different things. And that's the way I love it. Because it means I have different people commenting on different things, different people giving feedback or suggestions on different things, and some of you guys, like me, love both and cross over between multiple games. But at the moment, I'm doing videos for Gran Turismo 2, occasionally 3, occasionally 4, occasionally 5, 6, Gran Turismo Sport, Forza 6 occasionally, Horizon 3, and Forza 7. That's 8 games at the same time on one channel. You name me another channel who does that with racing games, because I don't think you'll find one. Usually you'll find somebody who does the occasional Forza video, or a Need for Speed video, or a GTA video, but they just do here and there kind of stuff. They don't do it like clockwork, as I have over the past few years. And the result of that is that, no, you are correct. Each of my individual videos only have, it would seem, a couple of hundred views. But the other day, to find out exactly what kind of views my videos get, I decided to look through my list, and instead of ordering them by upload date, I clicked the option to order them by highest views. And then I counted how many of those videos have at least 1,000 views. 20 pages worth. That's how many I have. 20 pages of videos with 30 videos per page. That's how many videos I have with at least 1,000 views. So to those who say that this channel is dead, you might want to actually check your facts on that, because that is a huge amount of views. And because I have so many videos, well over 3,000 now, every single one of those videos gets a few views every day. So although, no, my special projects video for that particular day might only get 200, 300, 400 views over the course of a couple of days. That's true. But so is every other video on the channel. And people then wonder why I get like 200,000 views a month. Because, yeah, even though I only get a couple of hundred views on most videos, when you've got as many videos as I have, in a similar way to a library, it just adds up so quick. Again, the raindrop effect. One drop of rain, you wouldn't notice. You get enough drops and you can wash away a small town. So yeah, that's the way it works on the channel. I don't make viral videos. Big YouTubers don't make viral videos. They might occasionally make them, but you don't try to, because that's just not an efficient way of doing videos. What you try and do is saturate your market, and that's what I've always done, especially with Gran Turismo 6. Now, as far as specifically the scheduling changes go, this is where I'm thinking about changing it up a bit, because as I mentioned earlier, over the past couple of weeks, and it started incidentally, I didn't plan to, but I stopped doing special projects and I stopped doing X-Tunes. Because usually, for those who maybe haven't taken notice, I do Monday to Friday FORZA tunes, then on Monday I do a Gran Turismo 6 review or a Gran Turismo 2 review, and then I do that same format on Wednesday and Friday. Then I do Gran Turismo Sport on Saturday, the photo mode competition on Sunday, a Rivals video on Sunday, generally speaking, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays I use for Gran Turismo 6 tunes, be it Sleeper Spec, Special Projects, X-Tunes, Leash the Beast, whatever it may be. But over the past couple of weeks, I didn't do any. I didn't do any Gran Turismo tunes on Tuesday or Thursday, and this most recent one, just gone, I did the X-Tunes build. Before that, it was like 2 weeks since I'd done one. I had no comments from people saying, oh, where have the tunes gone? And I found that interesting, because although I hadn't planned to use it to find out that kind of thermometer effect of how do people react, but it did surprise me, because that indicates that people don't care as much anymore. Special Projects as a series is still one of the most successful series I've ever done. There are multiple videos with thousands of views in there. But, of course, although my videos don't have a sell-by date or a use-by date, the games do. And there's a certain period where a game will become, in effect, irrelevant. Because when the game first comes out, it's super relevant. That's why I'm doing Forza 7 and GT Sport. Obviously. Then when a game gets old enough, it becomes super relevant again, like Gran Turismo 2, 3, 4, and to some degree 5, but not as much, because then a game becomes retro, and people start playing it because it's cool to. Those two are the sweet spots, because you're pretty much always guaranteed views. And I'm kind of giving you tips here, but the one in between is kind of where Gran Turismo 6 is. It's the most recent, but it isn't recent. It came out in December of 2013. We're now almost December of 2017. So it's not exactly as relevant anymore. So if you look at it that way, getting a couple of hundred views for every video I do of that is actually not bad at all for a game that's that old. So I'm not stopping Gran Turismo 6. You don't need to worry about that. I know some people have been. I'm not stopping that. But what I am thinking of doing is slightly rejigging the Horizon tunes, because doing 3 of those a day as well as everything else, I mean, at the moment I'm putting out, let's see, I do 5 videos every day, Monday to Friday, then on Saturday I do 2, and then on Sunday I do 2. That's 29 videos a week. That's a lot for one channel. Plus I do a video every week on my second channel, a movie review. And although you may think, well, that's just one video, yeah, but that one video tends to be about 15 to 20 minutes long. And that in itself takes a lot longer to make than most of the tunes on this channel, reviews on this channel. So it's a lot of time to put in. Keeping up 3 FORZA tunes every day is not easy, especially when most of the time I have to do them once I've got home from work. So what I'm thinking of doing is not getting rid of them, it's going back to the format which we were doing before, because I was trying to get as many of them out as possible before FORZA 6, but obviously that hasn't worked out. There's still loads of tunes which I haven't done. So with that being the case, there's no real point in rushing those now. So I think what I might do is change the Horizon tunes to 1 a day again instead of 3. So it's not like you're not getting any, you're still getting 5 a week. But then we're still going to have Gran Turismo 6 reviews on Monday, Wednesday or Friday, and then usually each week I like to put at least one Gran Turismo 2 video in one of those 3 spots. It's generally either Monday or Friday. Gran Turismo Sport, of course, is going to keep going. Every Saturday I do another race car for the GT Masters series. The photo mode competition isn't changing. The Rivals series is currently back on GT6, but I've had some suggestions of doing that on FORZA as well. I'm not sure how I'd work that out, because I don't really want to have it instead of Gran Turismo. I don't want the Gran Turismo players to feel left out or replaced. That's not what I've ever tried to do. I've tried to do it as well, rather than instead. But again, Rivals videos are fairly technical, not in terms of the content, but in terms of making them, so they take a bit longer. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work yet, but maybe I'm thinking of paring back one thing in particular. Well, 2 things. One I already said, the tunes, but the second one is on Tuesdays and Thursdays with the Gran Turismo 6 tuning, because although they do get views, they don't get the kind of feedback, as the past couple of weeks have proven, that they used to. If, say, 6 months ago, I'd have gone for 2 weeks without doing a tune, there would have been comments. Now there have been none. So that's interesting. And it's not surprising. I'm not saying I'm disappointed with that or that you should have commented. No, not at all. It's nice to know and I'm not surprised at all. So what I'm thinking of doing, and of course this will alter again when GT Sport comes out, but what I'm thinking of doing is having 2 FORZA videos, or FORZA 7 videos, that is, each week to replace the Tuesdays and Thursdays. As I said, I don't like replacing one game with another, because I don't want communities to rub up against each other in that way. But at the same time, if the videos that I am doing aren't relevant, or aren't being used, or aren't getting feedback, well then that kind of tells me that that demand on the market just isn't there as much anymore. So that's the kind of rejigging that I'm thinking of doing, and of course we'll have to rejig it up again when Gran Turismo Sport is released. And hopefully that will still be on the official date, but we'll have to see, unless something's changed there that I'm not aware of. But yeah, that's it overall for this particular week. It's a fairly long one, but these videos tend to be fairly long. So as always, if there is something which again you'd like to discuss or give an opinion on for the next Beards and Cars, then of course you can slap that down below. And also I'd like to hear your thoughts on stuff that I've talked about in this video, like the scheduling, the games, that kind of stuff. But overall, that's it for this particular installment of Beards and Cars, and of course you can check out previous ones and other playlists and other videos that might interesting you, what are you talking about? Try English, you retard. That might interest you even, such as non-car related stuff like my unsolved mysteries at the end of this video. But that's it for this installment. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.